Okay, now I can start talking because it's being recorded. So welcome everybody. This is April 2025's Supporting Productivity. We're talking Google Forms today and how to do all the things in Google Forms. And so really quick intro, everybody should know by now if you've had any kind of interaction with me, I'm a data nerd. If it's a spreadsheet or a data, or if I can segment it or sort it or filter it or collect it, I'm all about data, kind of like Golem and my precious with my database. But that's what I love about Google Forms is if you need to collect data, a form. If you need to collect the same data or you need to repeat the same task or same thing, then Google Forms are a great way to keep all of that organized. So we've got a couple of people here, and all y'all know my masterminds are interactive. I'm gonna make you come off mute. I'm gonna make you talk to me, not just stare me in the face. Who currently uses Google Forms? Who knows anything about them or their equivalent? I saw some hands go up. Yeah, Elizabeth, you can put your hand up. I know you're a Microsoft queen over there, but you guys have the same thing. So who wants to come off mute and tell me some of the things you use your Google Forms for?
I can. So I use them for, so I use actually Google Forms and chat forms. But I've used them for like client VIPs, so like send to clients to get contact information so we can do their birthdays. Event registrations, like we do a 5K, we give away registrations for 5K. So I use the Google form to get the information so that we can register for them.
Okay.
I've used it for surveys. I've used it for giveaways, like if we have an event for people to register for like an Amazon gift card or something like that. We do reverse bolds, and so I actually use that as well for the agent, so they can kind of use that as their script per se of like what to ask and what information to gather also.
Look at you knocking everything off of my bulleted list, Brandy. You didn't leave me anything to talk about, which is fine. I'll talk about the how here in a minute. Does anybody use them? So I know we've got a kind of smattering. I look at this, and a lot of y'all are solo agents or you're leveraged for solo agents. Elizabeth, I know you have a team. Does anybody use this internally for data management or data mining within your business? Not so much client facing, but to streamline processes for data that you collect in relation to your business. And by blank stares, does anybody know what I'm talking about? Elizabeth, want to give me one of the ways that you use it? I know you use it in your onboarding.
Yes. So right now I'm kind of using it for everything. I send out quarterly reviews for agents through forms. That way they can just fill it in and just kind of I get the answers immediately. I don't have to hound them down for it. We use it for transaction management in that aspect as well. Annual business planning goes into the form as well. Onboarding, so like asking just personal information about the agents and what they like, favorite treats, just kind of fun stuff like that. And it also gives me information to kind of build their bio and get their marketing rolling. So those are the things that I'm using it for most heavily right now. So transactions, onboarding, business planning. We haven't done events in a while, but I'm looking forward to seeing how everyone is doing that because I was never quite successful in getting information from people outside my team through forums.
Okay. So resource number one, you know that I am big into giving you guys resources and things to tack on and plus up when we start talking about all of these systems. So download resource number one you're going to get with the replay is a quick 25 item list of things you can use a form for. So just kind of get that brainstorming and get that going. But a couple of ones I have that we've touched on here is lead generation or intake. If you are out at a vendor fair, if you are, basically anywhere where you need to collect information from somebody so that you can reach out and call them about it. That could be open houses. That could be, like I said, vendor fairs. That's farmers markets. That's shred events. Anywhere where you're capturing the information, a Google form is really, really easy. And I know that with certain CRMs, there's integrations. So you could also do a website can do the same kind of thing. So if you have a website intake form, it does the same thing a Google form does. Google Forms are easy and it's easy to teach and they're easy to build. So there's that. You can use them to collect client reviews, client testimonials. I know we've been talking recently about feedback surveys, which is one step above just a review, but actually getting feedback on parts of your process. You can use it for inbound and outbound referral tracking internally within the team. So who you sent to which agent when and where they're at in their status. Event RSVPs and follow-ups. You can use it to collect client data, surprise and delight, pop by information, kids, dogs, all those kinds of things to build your client VIP programs. We use it as at the closing table to collect birth dates and verify addresses and stuff like that. So we can build out we send brownies for their birthdays, but we got to have their birthdays so they can put it into the form and then it gets translated into our CRM. And all of those fun things. My absolute favorite is obviously when we can implement it internally within our team to make repetitive processes faster. So as Elizabeth touched on, when we onboard a new agent, collecting their name, and this is the one it presented, their phone number, their address, information to write their bios, and then everybody fills out the same form. So everybody's email signature and their business card all gets built the same way because we have the same basic foundation blocks to build on. It's how we intake client referrals for vendors. It's how we intake internal referrals for vendors. We build our vendor database off of forms as well. Again, anytime you want to ask the same question to multiple people and get all the answers in a formatted, organized structure, Google Forms is probably going to be your best bet. So we're going to do a little live demonstration today because that's just a heck of a lot easier than listening to me talk about it. I also just like to be able to drive so you can see what the heck I'm doing. So I want to show you how to build a Google form as we walk through. So can everybody see the Google form dashboard? Give me some thumbs ups or some head nods. Okay. So there are multiple ways that you can get to forms. My Google Chrome is my browser of choice. And so whenever I open a new web page, you have this app widget and forms is available in my app widget. Click it, it goes to the dashboard. You can go to it off the drive. You're in your Google Drive environment, you right click, I say, I need a new form, and it'll go to that. Or all else fails, if you type forms.google.com, it'll take you to your form dashboard. And so this is where you end up. This is where you start. You'll see all the ones you have open, or you can say, hey, I need a new one. They do make templates. If you never know where to start, or you want to see what somebody else has done, I recommend you test drive the templates. I've been building these often enough. I always start with a blank form. So this is what you get. You get your blank form. This is what it's called. So nobody sees this but the person who has edit permissions for the form. Name it something that is very descriptive so that you can find it. If you don't remember where the heck it is on the drive, you can search for it. Don't just name it open house. Like, put the date in there, put the address in there, put what the form is, put where it's going, put who's going to use it. If you go to a different vendor event or you go to a different farmer's market and you're using it as an intake form for the farmer's market, if you want to use the same form to put everybody in one, you name it farmer's market. But if you want one for each different farmer's market or each different venue, then put where you're putting in the form. Again, clients don't see what you call it, so you can call it whatever the heck makes you help remember where it's at. So I'm just going to name it the test form with the date because it's a test form. So now see, it ended up over here, but you can edit this to call it, it's like, hey, farmer's market introduction. Hey, I met you at the farmer's market. So do we see how when I put it in here, it put it over here, but when I change it here, it did not change the name of the title. They're not connected other than that very first time you work on them. So the very first box is going to be a form description. Your form description is important. This is telling the people who open your form what the heck they're supposed to do with it. If you leave it blank, they have no idea what it's for, why you're collecting it, who you are, what they're supposed to fill out, or what they should expect. And what happens when we don't give our clients good expectation guidance? They do whatever the heck they want, or they don't do it at all. So hit that sweet spot between it not being a worded, huge, long paragraph, but also enough guidance that they know what the heck they're doing with the form. So this is literally just a paragraph. A lot of times for events, we'll put like what event it was, or the information for what they're going to be doing. So our most recent one, it'll say family pizza night, come join the Pinia team. Make sure you RSVP so your whole family gets enough free pizza that we order, and reiterates the date and the time. We don't always give the location. Sometimes we only give the location after confirmation, but there's enough information in there. So then you have your first question, and questions come in different styles. And so utilize the different styles to your advantage. You want to leverage them. Not every question should be a multiple choice. Not every question should be a paragraph answer. And so this is where you actually write what the question is. What color is your front door? Literally just writing a question. And so if we want them to pick, you have a couple options here where they could pick preset. If we want them to give you an answer, they can give a short answer or a long answer. And then down here, is this question required or not? I always recommend that if you're wanting their name, their email, and their phone number, that those are required. They can't complete the form without it. That's the whole point of the form. Not necessarily everything needs to be required, but I always try to make sure those are required, plus any other pertinent information. I know Brandy mentioned that they register for the 5K. If they need to have specific information to fill out that registration form on their behalf, then they probably should be a required question in the form. So you can toggle that on, toggle that off. And then there are two ways to add another question. You can either duplicate this question in the way that it's structured, and it will create the next question. Or you can hit, I need a new question. So if you've done a lot of work, you've set it up, you've got the required, you've got the right toggle, you have a certain set of radio buttons, and you want the next question to look very similar, duplicate may be your friend. If you just need a new question that starts out in the default that you're going to rearrange someplace else, then the add new is probably your friend. So that's how you add all your questions in. Anybody got questions about that? Does anybody want to hazard a guess when it's a good time to use a multiple choice or a radio button version versus a paragraph? Nope. I don't see anybody volunteering.
Radio
Go for it, Ellie.
I would say, yeah, radio button would be like if you wanted to search on it later. No?
So if you think about the fact that everybody's answers are going to drop into a column or cell in a spreadsheet, and you're going to need to take that information and take it someplace so that you can utilize it. If it's something that's a pretty standard answer, so if like their age or their number of kids, or do you have a dog or a cat, and you want it to be standard, then you want to use a multiple choice or a radio button. That way you don't get everybody spelling dog differently. Is it capitalized? Is it not capitalized? Does it have an S? Does it not have an S? And it says cat, or it's misspelled, or they spell it wrong. So now all of a sudden, if you're trying to filter or sort or manage your data, and cat is presented 6 different ways instead of everybody presenting cat the same way, then you have to spend time managing your data rather than just telling you, basically using the data to tell you what you need. And so there are times where standard answers probably make more sense as a multiple choice or a radio button. Just to kind of briefly go through these, short answer and paragraph are pretty self-explanatory. They can write whatever the heck they want, and then you get a big block of text. Multiple choice is just that. They get to choose multiple ones. This is what I'm talking about, radio buttons. They get to choose from a list of things, but they only get to choose one. With the multiple choice, they only get one option. Check boxes, they can pick more than one. And then drop downs it just depends on how long you want your form to show up. So if you have say you were asking them to fill out their address, and for whatever reason you needed it, you knew you're going to be hundreds of people or thousands of people are going to fill it out, and you didn't want to have to go and correct the state every single time, Then the drop down would be a state because you have 50 options. You wouldn't want to do 50 options on checkboxes or radio buttons because then you have to scroll the way through. The drop down just takes all of that and makes it much more simplistic into a single line. Anybody have questions on that? I feel like I kind of explained that well. And then they can upload a file, or you have a whole rating system that you can put in, or you can default to a certain date style or a certain timestamp style. That's in building questions and using the styles and required fields. My favorite thing for building more complex forms is section breaks. So a lot of times your forms will be very basic. You want to keep it no more than 10 questions, because if it's too long, they will stop filling it out in the middle of it. So keep it short and sweet and to the point and get it done. For our internal forms, where I have captive audiences, my agents have to fill the forms out. They can't get away and do what they need to do without filling the forms out. I can get away with forms being longer. But what I do to reduce the amount of scrolling fatigue, which is just like, oh my gosh, this is going on forever, is I break it into sections. So they'll fill out 4 or 5 questions in the first section, and then it will jump to the next section. And so the way you can put that in is you just add a section. So then this is the question they answer in section 1. Here's the question they answer in section 2. A good use for this is, so we have a Google form for when we go under contract. I've talked about this form before. The agents fill it out and it notifies our operations team, and especially our transaction coordinator, so we can start the file. So the first section is all about the client that went under contract, and all the information on the client. And we get down to the end and they're like, okay, is the client a buyer or a seller? The next section is all about, you know, their offer and their loan information and their contract that was written. And then the next section is all about title and closing. That way I can ask 20 questions and the agent isn't just scrolling forever waiting for the next section. So we broke it down into sections of like and similar data. The other really cool thing about sections is you can build in, I always refer to them as if-then statements. So on this very last one, we ask if the client is a buyer or a seller. We have a different set of questions that we need about a buyer contract than we do about a seller contract, specifically about like compensation and closing and things like that. So what we do is this 3 dots down here, you can go to a section based on answer. So rather than walking our client through our agent through the entire form, if they choose that it's a buyer, I only want them to see the buyer stuff. If they choose that it's a seller, I only want them to see that it's the seller stuff. So I toggle on this go to section based on answer. That's the if portion. If this happens, then I'm going to tell it what's going to happen next. So you'll see here that if they select buyer, the then option is like, well, which section do you want them to go to? Do you want them to just go to the next section? Do you want them to go to a specific section? Or do you want the form to just terminate? So like we have a form that is what happened at your listing appointment. Did you get the appointment? Are you waiting to find out? Or did you get the listing? Are you waiting to find out if you get the listing? Or were you not selected for the listing? Obviously, depending on their answer in that form, if they got the listing, we need to ask them a bunch of marketing questions and when they're going live. So that would send them to that section. If they're waiting on the sellers to choose, and then it goes to a different section, which basically reminds them of what all materials we have, what our text scripts are to basically re-engage and when to respond and follow up. Or if they didn't get the listing, basically the form submits. I don't need to ask them a bunch of questions about the listing because we're not going to be taking the listing. So that's where these different section options come into play. Any question about sections and the if then, where it routes to the other sections before it gets to the bottom of the form?
No, I'm loving it though. Yeah.
I have this, I don't code, but I have been around a spreadsheet and I have been around a workflow long enough that I love, if this happens, then this happens. And I literally write them out and then I go in and program them into all of our things in the back end. So I love sections and the coding on them because then I don't have to have 7 forms to do one thing. So that is the if then routing. I'm looking at all of our options here. Okay. So then you're going to build your form out all the different ways. I'm going back to the original form because that form is highly, highly complex and we don't need to get into that level of complex. So then I want to talk about branding and theming. So somebody mentioned that they didn't get a lot of people who were filling out the form. The more you can make the form look like it's part of your team or look legit or look like it's not a phishing scam, the better. There are ways to do that. So like we always can add an image. And let's just see what happens to be downloaded. Let's grab this one. That's our logo. So then you can insert an image. It's thinking about it. Where did it go? So that inserted the image into a question. So I can move that up to the top so that they see our logo, they see our image, they see our branding, or that sometimes this is a picture of a pizza, or sometimes this is our smiling team, so that they know that it is actually our site and our branding. So we use the image embedment a lot for that. You can do the same thing with videos. We have done intake forms. So we haven't done a reverse bold, but you could use it for a reverse bold, or you could use it for like your closing table, where we have a little thank you video that would be embedded that they could watch, where we thank them for being a client and then explain why we're asking for the client information, or the fact that we would love to surprise and delight them or drop them off pop buys. And then below that, we would ask for all of their information. So it's adding that personal touch and reminding them of what they're getting by giving us the information, because the only thing second to them actually paying money for a house is handing over your email or your phone number. How many people are like, you know, you're on the do not call list, or you get all the spam stuff, and you guard it like it's treasure because it's gold. So if we want them to give us their phone number and their email and trust us with that information, we have to offset that. It's an expense. It's a paywall. We have to offset that with some kind of benefit or value. So what are we giving them in exchange for the fact that they are trusting us with their phone number and their email? So you can build that in with videos, you can build that in with photos. And then if for some reason you don't like purple, it defaults to purple because that's the icon color. You can come up here to customization theme and you can change the fonts, you can change the colors, you can choose a header image to put on it. There's ones that are pre-built in here, or you can upload, again, you can upload your own. I'm gonna show you what it ends up looking like when you put a header in. So then that goes in the top. Again, it's another place you could put your logo in or whatnot. And so you can kind of brand it to yourself so that it's more friendly, it's more personable, you're getting them to engage with you. So moving on, if you want to preview it, that little eyeball will show you that it's previewed. You can let you see what your clients or your people who are going to be engaging, your users, are going to look like. And so then you have it built out. There are two main things you have to do before it's ready to go live to your clients once you have it built out. And that is come over, or sorry, let's take that back. It's three things. You come over here to responses. When they complete a Google form, it stores all of their responses. And it will literally in this screen show you, and they'll stack them on top of each other. If you don't want to scroll through, I don't think I've got them. Yeah, no, none of these have responses yet. What it'll end up doing is it'll show you the first question, and it'll show you everybody's response underneath that question. And then it'll show you the second question, everybody's response underneath that question. That is time consuming to try to figure out who answered what, when, and which one's lined up. So you always, always, always want to link it to a sheet. So you're going to link it to a sheet. You're going to create a new spreadsheet, or if you have one already, you can link it to that. But you're going to create the new spreadsheet and hit create. And it normally is going to use the same file name and then just say responses. So now everything you're asking in that form, when somebody filled it out, it auto creates a line item for each client, each user that's filled it out. So you can see all of their collective answers in one location. This is also getting it ready to go wherever the heck you need it to go. Are you creating an invite list? Are you sending it, you know, are we putting it into a mailing house, which you can do on an import? Are we putting it into our CRM? Are we putting it in, are we going to email it to our agents and have a call list? Like lots of ways to do it, but it all collects. You always want to attach the sheet So see how this went from create sheet to view in sheets? So now it's linked to the sheet that we just created. So you always want to make sure that that sheet is turned on, because if you collect responses before that sheet is created, any response that was put in before the sheet was created will not populate in the sheet. It takes it forever and it figures it out. So always start there. That's collecting the responses, and then come over to the settings. And if you work inside Google Workspace, there is a setting in here. I'm trying to remember where it is. I don't know if it'll show up on this Google version I'm in, but if you work in Google Workspace, sometimes they have this really weird privacy setting turned on where only people in your workspace environment can see or utilize your sheets. So you just have to toggle that off. That, I'll tell you, that was a week and a half of my life. I could not figure out why anybody could not use our forms. And it's because it was trying to keep it within the environment. So if for some reason somebody can't see it, and it comes to be a lot of people can't see it, just come in here and look for, it's normally a box that pops up right here of who it's shared with and who it's not shared with, and just toggle that off if not. And so you can check your settings. You can collect email addresses automatically. Be aware that in the Google environment, sometimes it won't let people complete the form if they don't have a Gmail-based address. So we don't toggle that on. We don't leave it there. Same thing with limit to one response. If you only want people to fill it out once, you can turn that on, but then it has to collect their email addresses. And again, sometimes it won't recognize it or let them complete the form if they don't have a Gmail. So we leave that Googled off. If somebody completes it more than once, we just pull out the extraneous double entry data, not a problem. And then I normally leave all of the rest of these alone. You can toggle them on, use them if you want to. For what we use it for, they don't account for anything. So that's all for settings. And then permissions. So permit this little share button in Google. This is always who's allowed to do what with it. So this is your share permissions. So you can see that I own the form. If I want somebody else to be able to edit it, I can add them in and make them an editor. If I want somebody able to view it, I can add them in and view it. Anybody up here with access is normally on the edit side. So then down here under general access, those are going to be your viewers, your users, your people who are completing the form. So you'll see that editor view is restricted. You don't need anybody who's completing your form as a client to actually be able to edit the form. Don't need that. But down here, your responder view is going to be important. Right now, the only people who can respond are people in my Google Workspace. That's not what I want. So I'm going to come down here. If it's restricted, nobody can respond unless they have the specific link to respond, or anyone with the link that gets the link to respond or whatnot. So you always want to put it on. You always want to put it on anyone with the link. That is the easiest way when you're sending the link information out to get people to, it's the least amount of resistance to getting them to complete it. They just click on the link, they fill it out, they move on. If you have to like send it by name or add them by piece, it's just much easier. Anybody with the link can complete it. So always, if it doesn't work, figure out why in these permission spaces it doesn't work. Anyone with the link is what you want. You hit done. So now we've got all the questions formatted. We have it looking like it belongs to us. We've taken care of the response sheet. We've made sure that our sharing permissions are good. So the absolute last step is to send it to people. Here is a very, very common mistake is I'll grab this link up here and send it to people. That doesn't work. This link is to edit the back end of the form only. This will not get anybody to fill it out. Do not use the link that is up here. Always, always use this. It looks like a paperclip to me. But click on the paperclip. Oh, sorry. Publish the form. Publish the form. Yeah. Got to publish it the first time. I'm used to cloning them, so I don't have to publish them. I just have to edit them. But click on the paperclip. This is the responder link. You always, always want to share the responder link. That is the only way somebody can fill the form out. If they get the other link or anything else that's not the responder link, it will let them edit and move around and see the question, see the back end, see how it's structured. That's not what we want. We always, always, always want the responder link. You can either copy the long form or you can hit the shorten URL and copy the short form. You just hit copy, and now you have the link, and that's what you will send out to people. Okay, I'm gonna stop the share right there. So that's very, very crash course, super fast basics on building your form. So, okay, any questions on that? No? No questions? Everybody's super quiet today. So, one of the cool things I like about the forms is, hey Blanca, you trying to
I'm so
say something?
sorry. Let me tell you, and I'm sorry for coming in and out.
No, you're good.
I have honestly, I have like right now it's going to 11 properties listed,
Mhm.
6 under contract. I have 5 more that are coming, and it was a client actually from South Carolina that is coming to Louisiana to actually list with me. So I asked ChatGPT yesterday to help me to write all the letters and the template, like if was a TC for sellers under contract, buyers under contract, to help me to organize. So because otherwise I'm gonna kill myself.
Yeah, no, and the forms can help you with that. When we were moving data back and forth, or when we were streamlining some things and trying to get our CRM organized, I found that I was having to copy and paste or move the same type of data. And I created what I call a quick entry form. And so I have an internal form that's like the name, the phone number, the email, which agent, the name, the phone number, the email, which agent. And I can take them from here, put them into the form, put it into a spreadsheet, and then I can import the spreadsheet wherever the heck it's going. And so I use these as well internally just to kind of get all the chickens back inside the coop. So there are multiple ways that you can organize the forms.
Well, because of you and what you taught me the other day about the templates, that's why I was very specific to my chat. Actually, he wants to be called Nova. To write me the templates in a warm form and like in a folder. So, and he even download the link. So in order for me to do what you taught us. And like I'm saying, that last week's seminar, it was so crucial for me because it gave me the ideas, and now I'm going to be able to do those templates. And if I one day get a TC, I can just,
Yep.
here you have. I don't want to see these anymore. But thank you, and I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. And that's why I record it. And that's why the replay will be going out. And that's why next month we're going to be talking ChatGPT and AI chat prompts to get things like this moving and what to ask it and how it involves workflows and marketing and so forth. A lot of things I've used recently to build out workshops and courses and stuff like that. So before I move on to you, so you guys, I teach very basic level, and then I teach the how to plus it up one, and then I teach for people who do this all the time, like what the hack is. So that was the basic level. Before I move on to the mid level, where I'm going to teach you something new, hopefully. Does anybody have questions on the basics? Nope, no questions on the basics. Okay, we're going to move on to the mid level. For the mid level, there are 2 things that I took our Google Forms to make them a more streamlined product for us that we've done in the last year and a half, 2 years. When they complete the form, the basic Google form will allow you to have it send a confirmation email to try not to sneeze, allow you to send a confirmation email to the person who completed the form. And there's a couple of ways that you can tweak that and a little bit of customization, but basically they just get a notification from Google that, hey, you completed this Google form. Here, if you want to know what form it was or what your responses are, here's a link and it will show them what they put in and what they said. We don't care if the client got that. We actually need that information notified internally to our team. So I have an add-on that I absolutely adore. And I just blanked on what the heck it's called, because of course I did. It's called Email Notifications for Google Forms. It's free. We like it. One of their download resources that I'm going to give you guys is literally the step-by-step how-to find this add-on, add the add-on, set up the workflow, and utilize it. So don't worry that if you can't write fast enough as I explain this, you will get a complete 2-page how-to for this exact add-on. But what we use it for is anytime a Google form is completed, we can add this add-on, and then it allows us to set up a, hey, for our client events, we will send a confirmation email back to the client that says, thank you for registering for our event. We show that you are coming with this amount of people. Certain events, we have seatings. There's like certain waves or times that they're coming. It will confirm their time. It will confirm the day. It will confirm the location. And then because generally we have them identify if they know who their agent is. Again, we have anywhere from 4 to 8 agents on our team at any given point in time. If they've confirmed their agent, we will have it pull that from the Google form responses and be like, okay, you know, Dan is excited to see you. Tulio is excited to see you. Allison can't wait to say hi, because we know which agent it was. It brings back into that personality and that personalization. But we'll send a confirmation email that is more in-depth and detailed to the client. On the flip side, because we use a lot of these internally inside of our team, like that under contract file registration, when our agents go under contract, it takes all that information about that file. It will PDF all of the answers, and then it will email me and our transaction coordinator and the agent the PDF copy of the answers. Our transaction coordinator now gets that PDF and can open that file within 1 business day, because she has all the information she needs to open that file, and she gets notified immediately. And we don't have to text, we don't have to email, she doesn't have to monitor CTME. That is literally the trigger that streamlines all of our stuff, because at any given time we can have 12 to 15 contracts open. And so that's what we use that trigger for on that end. If any of you have ever interviewed with Tulio for his Real Pivot Connections or his real estate road trips, we did an intake form for people who wanted to be interviewed. And then we set it up to send them out thanks for your interview. Here's some sample questions. Here's how far in the future we're booking. Here's when you might see that. And then we can also link it to the YouTube channel that contains all of those, or where they're going to get posted, so you can go watch others' versions. So it's giving you a free resource to have a more in-depth and structured and detailed follow-up email or confirmation email to send that information out to either the client or internally to the team. Any questions about that add-on? Because I love being able to send the information that it needs to in my own personal voice. Google has a little bit of limitations in the form. Nope. Okay. Then the other kind of mid-level hack that we do is, you guys saw that the Google form link always, it's really hard to, it's nonsensical. It's a bunch of letters. It's a bunch of numbers that kind of chops off like Google, and it hyphenates it and does weird things. What we found is sometimes that doesn't translate well in our emails or our text messages. It kind of looks a little fishy, a little spammy. It's not really branded back to us. And all of that impacts your user rate, your response rate. So what we have been doing, especially for our client-facing collections and especially events, we have a website, we have a domain, we do a 301 redirect. It sounds really very techy. It's not. It's a setting within your web hosting. It's basically like, when somebody puts in this website, I want them to go to this website. That's all a 301 redirect is. You fill in the 2 forms. And so our team website is thepiniateam.com. My coaching website for these masterminds is supportingproductivity.com. And so what I do is I said, okay, I want it to be thepiniateam.com/pizza. But I don't want it to be a landing page on my website. I want it to go to this Google form. And so then I put in the Google form, nonsensical, long, all of the letters. And so when we give it to our clients, we give them, hey, go to thepiniateam.com/pizza. And it will take you to the form to RSVP for pizza night. So it's, again, branding back to you. It's more legitimate. They're more likely to click on it, and your response rate should theoretically go up. You can do the same general, if you don't own a website or a domain, you can do the same general thing with Bitly. And that way you can at least control what the, it's called a slug. I know I'm getting real technical right now, but like the last little bit of it at the very end is called a slug, but you can control the slug on Bitly. So rather than the Google form with 17 letters and numbers, it would be the bit.ly.com / Pinya Pizza or Pizza Night or whatever it is. So consider rebranding what your web page, what your URL looks like to increase your response rate. And then putting that out, it's also easier to translate into text messages. It's easier to put on websites or write down, or your, what I find is if you grab that really long Google form link and then you try to put it on like social media and Facebook, it truncates it. So then now people can't share it unless they're sharing your post, because they can't click on it because it's all the internal permissions and algorithm stuff on the back end. So the shorter the link, the easier it is to type, the easier it is to remember. Any questions about that plus?
Yeah, that was a great plus. Is there a way for you to show us visually how to do that? The first part, or is that too much for this class?
Or could you
So
just give us an example? Or
Yeah,
just give us
exactly.
an example, that would be fine.
Yeah, so what I can do is the 301 redirect is very specific to who hosts your website. So like where it is located in settings on Wix is different than GoDaddy, is different than KW, is different than that. What I can do is I can give you a Google prompt that you can basically key into Google, that you can sub in who hosts your website, and then it will give you very specific like 4-step instructions on where to find it. Because the biggest, hardest part is finding it in settings. Like where did they bury it in settings? Because Wix, for whatever buries it under SEO management, even though it has nothing to do with SEO. And so I can give you that piece, but essentially what it's 301 redirect is what you'll end up Googling, what you'll end up looking for the setting on. And then you have a 301, it's a redirect manager, and the manager will literally ask you, where are they going? And that's the website you want them to go to. And that's the website you want them to type in or click on. And then it'll ask you what the redirect is. And that's the Google form link. That's where they eventually want to end up. And you have to have them in that order. If you flip-flop them, it won't go anywhere. So it's always, what website URL are you putting in or typing in or clicking on? And then where does that actually visually end up is the structure for that setting, for that redirect. But I will recap that in the recap email with a little bit of a Google prompt and the keywords that will help you do that within your own website environment. I can't show it to you because our website is down at the moment because we're translating it, and I can't really demonstrate it because everybody's is different depending on who hosts your website. So if you are working within the Keller Williams environment and command, you might be familiar with when you create landing pages. It's essentially like creating a landing page. You're just taking that landing page and sending it to your Google form. And there has to be a way to do it. I just don't know how Keller Williams does it in their environment. So I've already told you that you're getting a resource that has 25 ideas of where to start or what kind of forms you can start working now. You're going to get a resource that shows you how to do that email notification add-on step by step. And then basically, because there's some pitfalls if you're not familiar with using forms or you haven't used them repetitively, there's going to be a best practices sheet of things to just remember on how to get the most out of your Google Forms. I've covered a couple of these tips and ahas in the section. And then there's also going to be 10 common mistakes that you make and how to avoid them and what the fix is to prevent those common mistakes. So you're gonna get a total of 4 download resources in the replay email on that so that we can keep moving forward. The only last thing I wanna give is a caveat. Google Forms collect data. I've already mentioned the fact that most people's emails and phone numbers are super important and are very, very personal to them, and they don't want them splashed all over the place. When you use your Google Forms, if you are not including compliance language, be very aware of where that data is going, how that data is stored, and how you're using it to call. You don't ever want to get into a TCPA compliance issue or your do not call list. And so definitely just be mindful of that with how you're getting your data and who you're sending it to. When we send our forms out, we're sending them out to past clients who have already opted in. We're sending them out to people who are already enacted that compliance and that opt-in verbiage in another platform. We have legal coverage there. So they're just giving us information that generally we already have, or having conversations with them and there's explicit understanding and verbal confirmation that, hey, you gave this to me. for this drawing. I'm going to call you about it. And then you go from there. And then we always route them back into our environment through one of those legal captures that says that, yes, you can call me, you can text me, you can email, kind of thing. So just make sure you don't get yourself in trouble with your forms, because you are collecting data. Any questions? Kind of talked a little bit fast this time. Who wants to go make a form? Who's going to put a form into place this week or next week? No.
Yeah,
No.
I have worked with form, especially when I do some postings in Facebook and I put the link and to try to gather some information of the clients. I use it at the beginning for my events, and as a matter of fact, I have one this Saturday at the Apostolado. And it was a way, like you say, to capture that information. But then this time what I did is I use the Eventbrite and to capture the same kind of information. But because I used to belong to the Chispa group, and I was always very annoyed to the fact that I was not getting from, let's say, nationals, the information, names, telephone. So I learned in Eventbrite to be able to add more questions that I needed in order for me to know the locations nationwide of the people that were joining. So I'm kind of familiar, but I don't say that I'm the expert. So everything that you're doing, you're amazing. I mean, like I'm saying, thank you for being you. Thank you for having the mind that you have, because we're benefit and we're piggybacking from you. So I appreciate all your help.
I appreciate the kind words, Blanca. I didn't realize, it's like, I always said that I was never good at teaching anything. I'm an engineer. I should not be a good teacher. I never wanted to be a teacher. My kid was in kindergarten when COVID hit, trying to teach a 5-year-old to read, when I'm like, dude, no, like, I got math on lock. I do not have reading on lock. But I'm finding I really like this masterminds and these workshops and being able to share and build and collaborate. And I never ever would have guessed that that was the path that my road was going to take. So I appreciate the kind words. Yeah, so I'm talking Google Forms, but you can move this concept out to Microsoft has a form, Jot Forms has forms. If you do newsletters through any of the platforms like MailChimp or Constant Contact, you can put a form in that captures the same kind of information and builds out that table. And you can use that for your events. You can use that for your data mining, or people who need CMAs, people who will need to go to seminars. So I know you do seminars and things like that, Blanca. Eventbrite does the same thing. Eventbrite is a lot more geared towards events and event spaces and has a lot of those legal compliances built in, so you can utilize that. Most of the websites, like I know Keller Williams does open house landing pages. Like you can create an open house landing page off of your listing that's embedded in your Keller Williams site. That does the same thing. You can update your questions. They fill out the questions. It's all in a interface tied to a website URL that allows you to collect data. Because at the end of the day, a phone number and an email and a name of somebody who's even thought about real estate is where your lead gen is. That's who you're going to call. It's who you're going to work with. So you can take a lot of these concepts or a lot of these uses, and you can use them in other forums and other platforms and software. I just always start with the Google form, because even the basic version is free. If you've got like, how many people have created a Gmail address that gets absolutely no email just so they have access to the free Google apps and platforms, and then integrate that into their business and upgrade from there?
Well, one thing that I do, and this is a trick, kind of, if you want to. Okay, I have put a lot of my clients in the application Twilio. Okay, and maybe I do have their birthday, so I have created, and this was also because of Twilio. When I started following you guys, I create 2 videos singing happy birthday, one in Spanish and one in English. So I embedded kind of in the forms, so they will get it, of course. 90% of those, I might not have the address, but I'm saying, I hope you got the birthday card, blah, blah, blah. So when they text me back using the number, they say, oh my God, thank you for thinking of me, but I haven't received it. So immediately, I know I didn't have it. I just say I mean, did you get it? So that, because they're so thankful that I remember the birthday, I say, hey, do me a favor and send me your address. I need to confirm that what I have in file is okay, because I did send it. So immediately they send me the address. And then, of course, that's a way that I capture their information.
So no, and it's all in coming back to your customer service and how you're interacting with your clients and how it's all just a big circle and a big snowball. I'm huge on database management. Google Forms is a tool that is operated by a human to get information to inform a database that provides a service. And at the end of the day, that's how everything is like, what tool are we using as humans to have a relationship to inform a database so that we can provide a service? And that's how everything ties back in. So anything else? I have no problems ending early and switching gears and going and working on my I gotta move 15, no, not 15. Gotta move 2,700 people from our database to our next database. Yeah. In small chunks, little pieces at a time. Tiny bites of the elephant. What do you got, Joanne? Hit me with it.
So I'm a late comer to Google Drive everything, right? And I only got into it because I had a good admin who got me up to speed. I don't have that admin anymore. She moved, and I don't have a full-time admin right now. So anyway, my question comes back to, because I have a Joanne Del Pizzo at kw.com, Joanne Del Pizzo at gmail.com, and actually my KW email forwards to my Gmail.
Yep.
I seem to have two Google Drives, a kw.com one and a Gmail, and everything is messy. I don't know where to find anything. So what am I doing wrong, or what's the best way to address that?
So yes, you will have two Google Drives. KW runs on a Google platform. So if you have a KW email, it has some Google capabilities attached to it, but it does have a limited drive attached to it. And then if you have a Gmail, that will also have Google capabilities attached to it and a drive attached to it. Fastest way when you're creating things to figure out where you are is to always look in the upper right-hand corner and see which account it thinks you're in. The only reason I say that is because, like I said, Google Chrome is my web browser of choice. I'm a little all over the place. I am a Google girl. All my stuff lives in Google Chrome, Google Forms, Google Apps, but I will take Microsoft Excel spreadsheets any day of the week because they are better than Google Sheets, and I'm going to die on that hill. But I also am an Apple user, and you can't get me to switch to an Android phone. But I took all the Apple apps off and put Google apps on my Apple phone. So, I'm all over the place. But to go back to you, always look and see which user it thinks you are. I'm going to highly recommend that from this point forward, as you start organizing and putting things in places, that you default to your Gmail, just because I know there are limitations in the KW environment. There are certain things you cannot do with your Keller Williams Google environment. So your Gmail will offer you more options. I would default to that. And then I would start structuring that Google Drive, even if it's just folders of, this is stuff related to transactions. This is stuff related to admin. This is HR. This is old transactions. And just start some kind of filing regimen of at least 3 to 5 folders. And put them, as you start working through things, or you start touching things, or you start finding things, putting them into those folders or those drives, because if you try to go back and look at everything you had and make sense of everything you had, how much of that is stuff you don't even use anymore, or is old, or is archived, or is duplicate versions? Why waste effort? Kind of pick a line in the sand of today, move forward, put everything where you need to in kind of those folders in that structure. And then as you find you need it, and as you find this is the version I'm going to take, this is the most recent, or I've updated this version, this is the current version, that's the one that gets put on the drive. And then you don't have to worry about everything else. And that's the fastest way to eat the cow without just being like, I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life.
Okay, good advice. Thank you.
You're welcome. What do you got, Elizabeth? I keep wanting to call you Liz. Do you go by Liz or do you go by Elizabeth?
I used to go by Liz because I have to register my name as a nickname and it's just a hassle. I go by Elizabeth now with clients, but you can call me whatever you'd like.
So, well, the only reason I ask is because I go by Jessica, and I volunteer at the church, and there's 4 of us at the church on production staff, and like they all go by Jess, and I'm like, no, I'm Jessica. And then somebody tried to call me Jessie the other day. I'm like, I don't even know you're talking to me. So I want to make sure if I'm using your name, I'm using the name you're actually like used to responding to. So what do you got, Elizabeth?
So I'm just curious as to how you mentioned that you use forms for referrals, outgoing, ingoing, even from vendors. So is that a button on your website, or do you like preface like, hey, I'm going to send you a form for you to fill out, or how does that work?
Yes, so 2 things. When we do our vendor intake form, and we do it internally. So if our agents are like, hey, I use this new inspector, or I use this new HVAC company, I really think we should make them a preferred vendor for the team. On our Google site, there's a button where they hit the button, they fill out the form, and they tell me about the vendor. So then I can tell the team about the vendor, and I can vet them and see kind of what their prices are and put them in our vendor list. When we ask our clients to recommend a vendor that they've worked with, that they want to recommend because they really like their service, we normally do that as a button in a newsletter or a social post, or so it's a button in the newsletter or it's a link in the social post. And those are 2 completely separate Google Forms. They have very similar content, but the one my agents have, like, when did you use them? What client was it for? What was your experience? What was the price point? There's a lot of in-depth detail versus when we face it to the client, I ask them more about their experience. Was it an emergency situation, or was it routine maintenance, that kind of stuff? Or like, what did you exceptionally like about them? It's kind of more like a review. But yeah, we send a link or we send a button and they click on it through that. It'll eventually be up on our website. That's part of the reason why we're switching CRMs and we're having to redo our website from scratch. It has not been on our website to date because our website had some limited capabilities, and trying to keep all of these landing pages and all of these buttons managed was a hassle. For our referrals, that is generally it's embedded in our Google site internally for our team. When our team agent refers our client out to an outbound referral, they fill that form out because it notifies me. I'm the one that does the referral agreement paperwork. I'm the one that tracks down the W-9. I'm the one that does the commission disbursement authorization so everybody gets paid. I'm the one that does all of the weekly status updates and check-ins with the outbound referral agent to see how our clients are being handled. So that is more of a notification for me. And then I keep all of that information updated in the sheet. We have moved it to, if it's not got a lot of traction because everybody's a little bit differently, but if we have an agent that is putting a referral into the team, most of those come through Tulio. So Tulio's phone goes off the hook like 25, 30 times a day for all of that kind of stuff. His legion has been overtaken with agents giving referrals, which is great. We want to be a referral-based business, but it also has limited what he needs to be doing because he also has a very large class client database he needs to be calling. So we are trying to retrain them to fill that form out so that it comes into the team, and then we can vet it, we can talk to it, we can figure out who's going to help them, because Tulio also does not have time to handle 17 buyers in the same week. And so we'd like to be able to push it out to the team. So that is a work in progress, because
Good luck on that one.
I love agents. I love all our agents, but sometimes you guys are really hard to train new tricks. And so we are working through training them in new tricks. And it's more of a management aspect on our end than it is not just half the time he gets a call and I don't find out about it. Or he hands it off to an agent and I don't know, it didn't get translated. And so we're just trying to manage the data better. And we're doing that through the form. And so it might be that I have him fill out the form or I fill out the form, and eventually the agent will fill out the incoming referral will go through the form. So yes,
Thank you.
So, I mean, I will review the recording, because for what I understood is you are kind of being compensated in a way for when you refer a vendor to a client. If it is one of your preferred vendors, or you just refer it. I don't know why I thought when you say compensation, commission or whatever.
Oh, so two different things. So our vendors, our vendors, we ask our client, if we don't have a vendor in a specific industry or a specific field, we'll ask our clients who they used. And so they can tell us who they used. And then jumping topics, with inbound and outbound referrals, I'm the one that handles all of the compensation and the referral agreements and making sure the other agent gets paid for that inbound referral when we close. And so I have to know that they exist. I have to be able to contact them, and I have to know what status that we're in. We don't ever pay our vendors anything.
Okay.
We are working on sponsorship, but obviously that would play in a completely different thing. And then that would also probably lend itself to a form.
And do you have, because I have in my calendar, I had 2 events for you.
Mhm.
And it's supposedly there is another event tomorrow at
Yes.
11:30, and
Yes.
it's Google Sites workshop too.
Yes.
So I just wanted to
our
make sure
fourth
that I
session of
wasn't
that.
I wasn't crazy.
No, today is the monthly mastermind that is free and everybody's always invited to. Tomorrow is our session 4 of the Google Sites that we're building, which is the paid workshop that you joined me for the previous 3 weeks, Blanca. So we'll be working on our Google Sites tomorrow. And for those of you, so Kelly and Blanca are in my inaugural cohort, as are Mandy and LaShonda. They are working through building a Google site with me, and they have been for the last month. And we are going to kind of do some feedback, see where we got, see what we're doing. And then I will be launching 2 more rounds of that in May, June, and June, July. So if you've ever been interested in a Google site, you might want to get in contact with me or keep an eye on the emails.
Highly recommended, guys. I mean, I'm learning so much at sitegoogle.com. And so it's worth it. Every penny.
So anyway, if there are no other further questions, I'm gonna let you guys get back to your afternoon activities and your lead gen and doing the things that agents and admins do. And I will see you next month. Like I said, next month we're talking AI chat prompts. And then that's May. And then in June, we're going back to database basics, because I like to go back to the database every 6 months and really hit in on how to make it work for you. Because I promise there are people in there you need to call. You just need to know how you need to call them. So I appreciate you guys. I'm glad we had another great month. And the recap email, I've actually preloaded a good bit of it. So I'm really hoping that will be in your inboxes Friday morning, but it definitely will be out before the end of the weekend. Okay?
Thanks, Jessica.
Have a nice weekend.
Bye.
Bye.